Welcome to the Queer Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Venegoni. Here we have conversations with artists, healers, and activists who enliven the LGBTQ communities and who empower our queer spirits to flourish. Before we start the interview, I'd like to offer you a gift. I work with many queer folks who struggle with self-esteem, self-acceptance, and confidence. And I get it. Growing up queer is no cakewalk. Living in a world filled with homophobia and oppression can take its toll. Having the strength to be true to yourself can be a challenge, but you can change that. So, if you'd like support taking the first few steps, head over to my website and grab your free copy of The Self-Confident Queer. Just go to queerhealingjourneys.com/confident. This guide will walk you through 3 simple steps to help you begin to build your self-worth and confidence today. So head over to queerhealingjourneys.com/confident and download your free guide today. Okay, now on with the show. My guest today is Kerem Brule. Kerem is a self-taught musician who has continued to experiment and evolve creatively in search of her own authentic musical expression. Kerem is an electronic music producer, sound healer, drum circler, singer-songwriter, and even a rapper. She is a lover of improvisational layering of rhythm, harmony, and melody, and along the way has discovered some great musical expression hacks that have fast-tracked to greater expansion of her musical expression. Above all, Kerem is a believer that we are all capable of making music in ways that can feel intuitive, natural, and good at any age or experience level. Today we talk about how music holds the power of healing and memory. Kerem shares her experiences of music as medicine. She also shares the way she dives into improvisation and encourages us to play no matter how old you are. Find Kerem online and Instagram at beautifulsounds.co. Hello, Kerem, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here after having visited you recently in Southern California in your lovely showroom/home. Home showroom.
Home showroom, the coziest music shop. Someone just recently coined that. I like that.
Oh, that's great. So I wanted to have you start out by sharing with us your first musical memory.
All right. Like about 5 different ones just flashed in my brain. But the one that I'm going to speak on is my parents used to have this orange Volkswagen type car. Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't a Bug. It was whatever kind of car. And inside it was lined with like this black with the dots. Like it had dots in it, right? So you could like lay back and just if you let your eyes soften, you could, right? Okay, so the memory includes being in the car, looking at these dots and hearing... Now I'm going back into it, hearing like songs on the radio and just singing them back, but doing weird stuff like kids do, like having, I have water right here, so I'm going to demonstrate. It wasn't just singing the song. It's gargle singing. Have you ever done gargle singing?
Yes.
You have? Okay. I'm not the only strange kid, and kids aren't strange for doing that. They're just experimenting. So I don't know why the visual, but that was the visual, right? I'm in the car, I'm gargling with the song, and the dots are like moving towards me because I'm doing this weird thing you can do with your eyes when they relax and the dots come towards you. So that is, the musical memory that came up to share, and actually brought that back around in this little series I did. I decided to do this music challenge thing. I think it was like 2 years ago, and I made some YouTube videos inviting people to make music in different ways. And one of them was the gargle song. I don't know if anyone played along, because I didn't really have a system for, I just kind of threw it out there, all these different, 30-day make music challenge or whatever, just to try different things to make music. But that was the one that I brought back. And it really brought me back to my childhood and to that play, the playing mind, the childlike mind and playing with music and how to have fun with it.
Yeah. Well, I love that story because I think it really demonstrates 2 things which are really cool about music. One is the way that music really links to memory.
Yes.
That you had such a strong memory about being in the car and like even seeing the texture of the ceiling in the car. And then also about play.
Yeah.
Which is just another word for improvisation, which is something else that you do a lot of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like part of my job on the planet is to demonstrate, mostly to adults, actually, to other adults, that they have the little kid inside them that wants to play. And I allow myself to drop into that childlike space a lot. Like, my life can be a musical. I'm not joking. I'll just, sometimes just break out into little songs, allow myself to like boogie, do a little dance, make a little song. Mm-hmm. And that's just part of who I am. But that is the child. That is the child that wants to play. And improvisation is a big part of that. I mean, think about, like these days, all the kids have tablets, and not all of them, but many of them, right? We have these games and even school right now is like all through a device. Everything is through this device, which is a little concerning. However, that's part of our world, right? But when we were kids, I grew up in the 70s, right? And so 70s and 80s, and it's like, go play. Of course, then Nintendo and Atari. That was in my life, right? Yeah. And there was a lot of music in that too. I can like sing all the little Atari songs. I don't even know. Someone could probably name that tune.
That was Super Mario Brothers.
Thank you. Good job. We could go into it. Name that tune for Atari games. Anyway, so improvisation, is part of how kids, it's using our imagination and using, in the moment, like, let's make something up. Let's make up games, things like that. That's what we did as kids. We made up games. Mm-hmm. Or we played games that we'd learned, passed down, but also making up games. Like, go play, kids. Go figure out what you're going to do. Go play and come back later. Mm-hmm. Instead of having this, kind of screen, we had each other and we had our own, and so I love to see that make a comeback. But I'm sort of bringing that back for myself. We all have that choice to live in super responsible adult land all the time, boring and stressful, or to allow ourselves to come into a place of play and openness to inventing something new. And the way that I find is most easily reached for me is through music and through sound. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm kind of that type of expresser. Whoop! Like, I'll make a lot of noises and have fun with it. And part of that is like letting go of what other people think. And there's a lot of layers to what might prevent any one of us from expressing to our fullest in whatever moment it is. There's also appropriate places to do this, and in places where it's not as helpful. Mm-hmm. But if we can create that space for ourselves, even just a couple minutes to allow ourselves to make some sound. And it doesn't have to be fun and whoop, 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 like Three Stooges style. Maybe you have emotions that are running in you, right? And there's a lot of ways that we can get those emotions out. And emotions, when I'm saying that, I mean more like heavier stuff. Mm-hmm. Like if we have heavier things going on or we have sadness that we're processing, any of those things, we can use sound for that too. And there's so many tools. Like one of the things that I've discovered in my journey, basically back into music, that's been about 25 years now. Back in college, I came back to music after like totally ditching it for sports. And I was just sports, super jock, like all year. And then I burned out from that so much. And I was so happy to find my creative self to begin a new era of me in that creative aspect.
Well, I think you were talking about, what you've talked about, the benefits of living in an improvisational mindset, and that for you do that through sound and through music, but other people could do it in different ways.
Yeah. I guess what I was going to say is in this last 25 years, just approximate that quarter of a century of experimenting with my creative self through music, like being, and learning what kind of expression can come from me. That was a huge spectrum from, what was more recently more like music meditation, sound healing, very chill, sort of like exactly what I needed as medicine. Mm-hmm. This kind of slower, breathing deep with the sound, being really present with the sound and teaching that. and expressing that way. But also I had a whole decade plus of African drumming, of like really just, that was for me, I was kind of like on a drum set there, but like all kinds of rhythm, any kind of rhythm. Mm-hmm. I found drumming and it was just like such a high for me. The natural high, right? Of I say that now as like a sober queer. Got the natural high going on with music, but drumming for me was like this. It was such an important medicine for me because it was. I mean, I have these little drums here. I have these. You can do a lot with like a little baby drum, but it allowed me to just like find my own rhythm in the world, but also connect with other people and learn how to harmonize with rhythm, basically. To play with other people in this alternate language that anyone in the world can join in on and understand.
Yeah.
That's what drumming taught me, was that you can have this universal language and connect into a common pulse, and that's what peace can come from. Right? It's like finding the common pulse. And so drumming not only allowed me to also kind of work through different types of anger stuff coming up from childhood wounds, and just like needing to really work my body and be physical with my music making. And now that's coming back around in my life too. So it's sort of like I took a break while I did this connection into even more of my like emotional body, like with flute playing and different kinds of melody, different instruments. I kind of went from this drumming world to this softer, more feminine expression as I came to understand that within myself. So it's sort of really interesting. I can look at it at so many levels, and we all can in our lives, how music have touched us, even just, recorded music, right? Music in movies, all that music is connected to so much of our brain, with our memory, with our, you've probably seen or heard about some of the studies with Alzheimer's patients, right? And how music can bring them into a presence, or, even in like being in a memory, they're coming into a place where they can speak clearly and understand and interact in a way that they weren't otherwise.
Yeah.
It's such a medicine in so many ways that we don't even know, but we have also, seen in our own lives.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the way you're talking about music can be healing as medicine, and it can also be connecting, so music can be healing when you're just on your own, having your own private experience, but it'd also be connecting with other people, whether it be through rhythm or through drone or through melody or anything like that. Yeah.
Like, think about even just we've been in this pandemic, right? And now here in the US, we're coming back. There's concerts now. Mm-hmm. There's all the things outside now that are starting to happen more in different areas. Remember the feeling that you had going to a concert of one of your favorite bands at the time, or of all time, whatever, and people know all the music and they're singing together, they're vibing it all together. Like, that is a collective joy, to have all of that energy with the music. It's just this collective, powerful collective energy. And that's just singing along to a song, just singing together and moving our bodies together. It's just, I don't know. It gets really juicy for me when I really think about it. I mean, there's just my life through music is many novels, right? Yeah, many aspects. So I like to come here, here I am here, but, I like to come to one of the interfaces I have with the world and other people is as an example of how you can bring music into your life in different ways. As a music maker, we can experience music from other people. We can experience recorded music. We can experience silence, which is also a really important part of sound.
Yeah.
So you don't have silence, you don't have sound, right? It's like they're together. So it's for the yin and yang.
Yeah. As I was preparing for this and thinking about you and what you are bringing to the world, I was thinking of you as almost like a midwife for people.
Ooh, I like that.
Like a midwife, or, you are helping someone birth a new instrument into their life, because they come visit you, or it's almost like an adoption agency, a musical adoption agency.
Yeah.
Or an instrument adoption agency. Like, they come to your house and they're like, oh, I like that kid. And then I'm going to go talk to them and like, oh, maybe they won't quite fit in at my house. I'm going to go try this one. that kind of thing.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of places. So, I mean, you're speaking of the aspect that has developed in the last almost 5 years now, which is Beautiful Sounds, which is my music instrument reselling business. And it's become one of my main ways of outreach into the world in this musical way, to invite people into the music making experience, because nearly all of the instruments that I've found for myself and I've fallen in love with, I've brought them in, like the makers of them, into this Beautiful Sounds family, I like to call it, and think of it like that. Like really think about we're growing a family of, through connection, through music and expression, and empowering each other to expand in that way. So bringing all of these makers together who make extraordinary instruments, some of which I'll share today, but to also have a place for people to come. So I have an online store for Beautiful Sounds, and that's been really fun. And through Instagram and social media, connecting with people around the world, connecting with people just outside of San Diego, right? But if people are local or they're traveling through, they can stop by to the coziest music shop. I don't know if I'd say in the world, but because I don't know. I've never been to all of them, but just people like it here, right? It has a warm feeling, vibrant colors, and just a warmth, and all of the instruments are here. So I've taken a part of my home and really created this welcoming space. And oftentimes people who come are beginning their journey again with music. Maybe like myself, they did a little bit in school, or tried a little piano or clarinet or whatever it might be in a traditional format, and maybe didn't continue with that. Or maybe they have, we all have stories about all sorts of things that can prevent us from really fully being our most vibrant, self and most expressed self. So stories around, I'm not musical, they're musical. That's not me. That couldn't be me. Or oftentimes I might have a good example is I used to take my instruments, and I have many more than I did then, but I took flutes and drums and some other things to the farmers markets, right? So that was my first a movable store. I didn't have this space in my home that I had created. I'm taking the instruments to different places. And so say at farmers market, I'd get parents and their kids a lot coming around, and they'd be like, let's bring Susie over here. And the parents are like, here you go, child, you try it. And I'm like, hey, wait a second. Let's everybody try it and see, and what more often than not, the kid is kind of, because they're open, they're trying it. They don't care. They want to see. And then if I can get the parent to come over here and try it, then they get to see too. That story, whatever story might be there, saying, oh, I don't get to do that. It's a permission thing, right? I don't get to make music. That's for the kids. It's like, no.
Well, I think it comes back to what you were saying about play. The parents are like, oh, the children play. I don't play. I have to do the work.
I am the responsible adult. And I get it. I don't have kids myself. And I feel like that has freed me to be as childlike as I want. I haven't had to raise a kid. And that is an amazing job to give yourself in the world, to raise a child or children, multiple kids. And I know many friends who have, and I'm grateful for that because they're awesome people raising awesome kids. So, but yeah, you can lose that sense of play when you have to care for little ones, or you have whatever job you have that's very stressful. You have all of the things to make a living so it can do the things you have to do. It's hard being a human in this world. And so one of the ways, even in my life, I have stresses for sure, but being able to consistently tap into something that I've found that can help balance me out, whatever it is. If I need a little excitation, I can use music. If I need to chill, I can use music making, and different approaches to music making. And so it's really, the first step is to give permission and say, you can come here too. You're welcome here. I didn't have any formal music training, and yet I found myself in the world as a professional musician. I kind of call myself an amateur professional. I allow for, but whatever, I'm making a living through music making.
Yeah.
I found a way. I've hacked my way, without being a music major or even understanding music theory or any of that stuff that people think you need to know to make music. I've found ways, and in fact, a lot of the instruments with beautiful sounds are very intuitive for people because they're designed that way.
Yeah.
They're designed to have like for instance, this reverie harp. So it has a lot of strings, and that can be a little intimidating for some people, but actually anyone can play this because all the strings are tuned to go with one another. You can't mess up. You just have to learn how to tune it. But I do lessons for anyone, to learn any of the instruments here, because I've learned at least what I know how to play. I don't necessarily call myself an expert. I just know a little bit more about these instruments because I've had experience with them. Mm-hmm. So I can kind of share how to, approach it without so much judgment.
Yeah.
And hopefully set the foundation for more success with instrument making in someone's life if they're just coming back to it. That's so many people right now.
So I wonder if you can share with us if you have any special stories about how music has helped you break through creative expression.
Sure.
Break through barriers to creative expression.
Yeah, there's a couple of really powerful moments in my life. And it's interesting because one of them was after I was already just starting to say, I want to make music my livelihood. Mm-hmm. I had been a massage therapist for many years in that kind of healing world. And then I had to take a break because I injured myself and I got into totally other work. I was in a warehouse, learning how to become a manager. I'm not a good one, by the way. I'm a good self-manager, pretty good self-manager. But anyways, and I was coming back into it and I just kept hearing, I was hearing this whispering. I think that happens to a lot of us. We'll hear this whisper, maybe it's, we could call it a lot of things. Our intuition, our guides are just a hunch of the next step, but it's sort of a whisper because maybe there's a little resistance to it. But the whisper was, get a piano. I was like, what? I don't want to play piano. What do you mean, get a piano? Yeah, get a piano. You've always wanted to play piano. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to look on Craigslist. And I found a old, free, heavy, piano. And I found the means, friends and a truck. Mm-hmm. And, got the piano to my house. And I have a couple steps up. You've been in my house. Just a couple steps up, but it's a heavy thing. And I got it into my living room. In fact, there's still the tracks of the wheels, impressed into the wood floor a little bit. I can totally see that. So there's still, it's all right, it's been here. Now, but that means it's also gone. It did go. But I got the piano in and I wasn't okay, now I'm going to take piano lessons or whatever. It just sort of sat there. It sat there and it invited me just by being there, And so I found myself actually more when I was in a little bit of turmoil or a little bit of just sort of emotional upset, going to the piano. And I don't know, I can play a few songs that a lot of people know, Chopsticks, and also the Axel F, Beverly Hills Cop or whatever. I could play that and then learned that by ear a long time ago. But what I did instead was there's a pedal, a sustain kind of pedal, that if you press it down, it takes the stoppers off the back of the notes. And so when you play the note, it just rings for as long as the note will go. As long as that string that got hammered, with that note play, as long as that is vibrating. And so it kind of has this spaciousness to the sound. And so I just kept that pedal down. It also sounded better that way. Honestly, this piano was not very good, but it was tuned to itself enough.
Yeah.
That I could play relatively, with itself. And so I would sit there and just pick out patterns that felt good or sounded good to me and kind of maybe do some wandering around and just feeling and being in the sound and do that for a while. And inevitably I would feel better and maybe I would allow myself. Now at the time I had more of a group house. I had been divorced just recently. That was part of the processing. I had a group house. I had a couple people living with me. And so I was a little bit hesitant to just emotionally process through my voice, with my housemates, because it was right in the middle of the living room.
Yeah.
But I did a little bit. That was one barrier. There was even just letting myself sing, even though I had done tons of singing with drumming and like, we know a different scenario, but with this, it felt like a lot more personal and, just very emotional. So I did more when my roommates were gone, was letting my voice come through, but to play and just allow myself to improvise. And what that meant was I wasn't trying to make a song, really. I was just creating, and maybe I had a little pattern, that I kind of went with, and because I didn't really know what I was doing, right, so to speak, right. But I was utilizing this tool and these sounds in front of me to make sound that was resonating with how it was feeling, and that was very healing. And I just remember, like, one of the last times I had the piano, it was a really beautiful day. It was super sunny. I don't know, it was a Sunday or something. I remember it being a Sunday because I did find some chords eventually. Like I learned, sounded kind of, I've been in a gospel choir before through a workplace a long time ago, which was really interesting. We had like this gospel choir as a side thing we could do, which is really cool. But I love spiritual music too. I love like spirituals and gospel. I love all kinds of music. So many, it's the full spectrum. I love all music pretty much, except for like the ragey kind of metal stuff. I don't know how to like bring that in or harvest that energy, harness it. But anyways, I remember I finally was like letting myself out, and I knew my neighbors could hear. Like the windows are open. I know how sound travels in the where I am. And I just found a couple chord progressions, and I sang this. I made up a song. I made this, like sort of gospel like song. I don't know what I was singing about it or what it was again anymore, but that was just so joyful. So I thought, all right, this is why this is here. And I just, I recognized as I was using it in that way. So that's a really good one. And I ended up, it didn't quite fit in with it was big, eventually I wanted more space, and I ended up, gifting that to a family whose son was starting to play piano, and hopefully they got it tuned and stuff. I didn't go on and have lessons or anything. I really just used it as it was. I think that's a really beautiful metaphor too. Just like, it was sort of off key, but in key with itself, in tune with itself, and able to be utilized as a tool for my own self-expression and my own healing.
Yeah, it sounds like the piano came into your life, invited itself into your life through a whisper. And sort of, it sounds like that experience when you sang on that Sunday was sort of like the peak of the relationship. And then not long after that, it was just like,
thank you.
It's like, it's time for me to leave and you can move on. And, I've taught you what I needed to taught you, or healed, brought you the medicine that you needed. And you've now completed your last dose.
Yeah, for sure. It went out with a bang, a coordinated bang.
Yeah.
So, I haven't so much been drawn back into the keyboard land.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So, Kerem, can you share with us a person, practice, or experience that has supported your queer spirit to flourish, if you haven't already, through one of your other stories?
Oh, sure. So, one thing that I like to do and to share, I'm surrounded by all of these beautiful instruments. So, I'm very lucky in that way. I've cultivated this life where I have all of these instruments, but we don't need any of them in order to connect with ourselves through sound, and to give comfort to ourselves through sound, or any number of things, because we are born with our voice, right? Our hands, our feet, our body, and we can make sound and movement, in any way that we want to help express what we need to express. But there is one practice that I find really does connect me more to myself. And it isn't so much about external expression as it is about internal vibration. And this may be something that you've practiced in the past, but if not, I want to invite anyone to join in. And it's simply a hum, H-U-M, the hum. So it's a relaxed face and mouth, but you're letting your lips kind of vibrate with whatever sound it might be. When we do this in a group, a large group, it can almost feel like a hive of bees. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their little sound, and it's really quite cool. And it doesn't come across as much, but it is a self-practice. It doesn't need to be in a group at all. In fact, like even in a group, the focus is on the internal experience. And so one thing that I like to do is you can put your hands could be on your chest or on your tummy or both, or somewhere on your body that feels really good. It could be my throat or your head. But if you put it on your chest or near your diaphragm, you're going to feel that even, I'm feeling that vibrate as I'm speaking, right? So the practice of the hum, and we'll call it like an internal hum. We're making the sound, but really we're focusing on feeling the vibration inside of our body versus pushing it out. We don't need to expand past where we are right now. And it's not for anyone else but us. And it actually did that motion. And it really is kind of like giving a hug to our organs, to our nervous system. And that feels really good just to give that to myself right now, just like little hugs. So the hum, this is something where we have already our natural tone, our speaking voice, but it doesn't really matter what sound, what note, I put note in quotes, what doesn't really matter. The important thing is that it's a relaxed exhalation with sound, but you're keeping it so you can buzz your lips. So I don't even know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. Yeah.
So we can almost practice it as a really sweet slow breath practice as well, to help us come into the present. One of the things that you can do, and we're going to just go into it in a second, is the intention that you want to have in this moment for yourself. Maybe you have an affirmation. Some people really like that, like, I am worthy, I am loved, whatever it might be, or just I'm here, or it could be any number of things, whatever works for you. I am safe, those are all nice ones, whatever might feel good right now. And then have a continuous hum for even a minute, or, it could be a couple minutes, but I'm not sure how much time we want to spend with it. But let's just, why don't we say 5 breaths? We'll just do it for 5 breaths and see what happens with how we're feeling now and how we're feeling after 5 breaths of a soft hum, internal hum hug experience. Okay? Let's do it. Okay. So kind of at your own pace. We don't have to do it together. But when we come to the 5th breath, just come down into the quiet. So maybe you can count on your hand that's on your chest, however it works for you. Okay, and I'm going to close my eyes, and you can do the same if you want. And then just be in a couple moments of just in that place after the sound. See if you notice anything physically, emotionally, mentally, where you might be. For myself, I noticed that a little bit of sort of buzzing feeling remained in my hands for a moment. And I just felt really present and warm. Well, it is hot, but just like a warm feeling. Yeah. How about you?
I felt similar. I had a lot of sort of buzzy energy in my head as well. Sort of like the energy was going up. Yeah.
Cool.
I also muted myself, but I was sort of playing with different tones so I could hear yours on top of mine and sort of harmonizing or anything.
Nice.
Like
That's fun. Yeah. When you, like I was saying earlier, when you actually have a room full of people doing this and you do it for a while, it can be really cool because we all have our own breath patterns. And so it's not like sort of when you're just hearing mine, it's just like going and stop, but then you have other people that are all these sounds continuing to go, and it's a very sensory experience of maybe tuning in within, but also hearing all the different people around you and everybody's different voice. And it's a pretty cool way to be internal with the sound, but also have a collective experience with sound as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being here with us today.
You're welcome.
Can you let people know where they can find you and connect with you?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that went fast, didn't it? So many other things to talk about, but hopefully the main points that came through, that we're all musical beings, and that there are many, many ways that we can find that expression. And I'm someone here that can help. I can help with that. I can be an encourager, and I have a lot of different instruments and approaches that people can utilize, to try out and experiment with. So one is the website that I have, which is beautifulsounds.co. That's also my Instagram. That's a really great way to kind of look more into who I am as a person. I put a lot of real life stuff in there, my garden, my cats, my adventures, along with playing with all the instruments and really introducing people to the different instruments of beautiful sounds. So Instagram is a great way to connect. And then if you're in San Diego or traveling to San Diego, I have this beautiful showroom here in my home. This is like the smallest space that actually I'm doing the video in, but I have a couple of rooms full of instruments for people to try. And I can do video chat with people who aren't in the local area as well. I've done that a lot, actually. I've even done, flute lessons. I've taught people how to play flute online, and I can do mentoring. I just like to share what I know and really encourage people to find their creative voice, whatever that might be. I'm a great mentor for the musical voice and finding that within ourselves. And my main goal for myself is to continue to evolve in my music making. So like in the last year, I've been making musical tracks, like electronic music production. I'm now on Spotify, which I'm really excited about. So on Spotify, iTunes, all of that. My artist name is Love is Free. I think I forgot to put that link when I put my stuff in for you, but you can find me on all the major music platforms under Love is Free as the artist name, because we all need an artist name, right? I mean, if you had an artist name, Nick, what would it be?
Gosh, or do you? I don't know. Like for music?
Like if you were a rock star, or something, what would Axel F? Wait, that's the name of the song. But I was thinking of Axe. What would your rock star name?
Well, one name I've sort of used, which I like, is kind of queer and fey, is Rhubarb Snapdragon.
Oh, I like it. Rhubarb Snapdragon. I'd get that LP. It needs to have some cool art on it, I think.
Yeah.
Rhubarb Snapdragon. Awesome. And Love is Free coming at you.
Yeah.
From the Queer Spirit podcast.
Exactly. Well, I'll have those links in the show notes so people can find them there. And thank you again for being here.
You're welcome.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Talk to you again.
To find the resources we discussed today, find the show notes at thequeerspirit.com. And if you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. This will help us reach and support more queer people all over. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.